This missing person case has too many unanswered questions. 17 years later, and there are still more questions than answers. Jessica Ramirez was 19 years old when she disappeared in 2007. She left her apartment one evening to meet a friend and was never seen again. Her car was found abandoned on the side of a quiet road. Her purse was inside. Her phone was on the floor. There were no signs of a struggle. No blood. No obvious clues about what happened between the time she left home and the moment her car was found. At first, police thought she might have run away. Then they considered the possibility of an accident. Then they wondered if she had been the victim of a crime. But none of those theories ever led anywhere solid. 17 years later, investigators still don't know what happened to her. Was she taken against her will? Did she meet with foul play? Did she have some kind of mental health crisis and disappear on purpose? Or was there something else going on that nobody has been able to figure out? Every possible theory has holes in it. Every lead investigators followed eventually went cold. There are too many unanswered questions, and not enough evidence to point clearly in any one direction. Jessica's family has spent nearly 2 decades living with that painful reality. They've had to accept that they may never know what really happened to their daughter. They've had to live with theories instead of facts. And they've had to watch as the case slowly faded from public attention while the questions remained. This isn't a story with a neat ending. This isn't a case that was solved with one piece of new evidence or a dramatic breakthrough. This is a story about a disappearance that still has too many unanswered questions, and about what it's like to live with a mystery that refuses to be solved. Today on Shadow Files, we're going to walk through the disappearance of Jessica Ramirez. We're going to look at why her case has so many unanswered questions. Why investigators have struggled to find clear answers. And what it's like for a family to live with that kind of uncertainty for nearly 2 decades. Disclaimer. Before we continue, I want to be clear. We tell these stories with respect for the victims and their families. We focus on the facts and the investigation process. We will not sensationalize or dramatize violence. These are real people, and we treat their stories with the seriousness they deserve. Jessica Ramirez was 19 years old in the spring of 2007. She lived in a small city in Colorado called Fort Collins. She had just finished her first year at a local community college and was working part-time at a coffee shop while trying to figure out what she wanted to do with her life. She was close with her family, especially her mother, Maria, and her younger brother, Carlos, who was 16 at the time. Jessica was known as a responsible but somewhat quiet young woman. She didn't go out much at night and preferred spending time with close friends or at home. On the evening of May 10, 2007, Jessica finished her shift at the coffee shop around 8 p.m. She told her coworkers she was going to meet a friend for coffee at another cafe across town. She got in her car and drove away. That was the last confirmed sighting of Jessica Ramirez. When she didn't come home by 11 p.m., her mother started to worry. She tried calling Jessica's cell phone. It rang a few times but eventually went to voicemail. By midnight, when Jessica still hadn't shown up and wasn't answering her phone, her mother called the police and reported her missing. Officers responded and took the report. Because Jessica was 19 years old and legally an adult, and because there were no immediate signs of foul play, the initial response was limited. Police checked local hospitals and jails. They put out a description of Jessica and her car to other departments. But without evidence of a crime, there wasn't much more they could do that first night. The next morning, Jessica's car was found parked on the side of a quiet road about 4 miles from the coffee shop where she had been working. The doors were unlocked. Her purse was on the passenger seat. Her phone was on the floor. There were no obvious signs of a struggle inside the vehicle. No damage. No blood. It looked like she had simply parked the car and walked away. This changed everything. Police now treated the case as a missing person investigation with possible foul play. They brought in search dogs and searched the area around where the car was found. They re-interviewed everyone who had seen Jessica that evening. They looked into her phone records and bank activity. There was no activity on her phone or bank account after the evening she was last seen. One person who came up during the investigation was a coworker who had asked Jessica out a few times. She had turned him down politely. But he had seemed upset about it. When police questioned him, he claimed he had been at home with his roommate the night she disappeared. His roommate confirmed the alibi at the time. As weeks turned into months, the investigation continued but didn't produce any solid leads. There were no sightings of Jessica after she left the coffee shop. No activity on her phone or bank account. No witnesses came forward with new information. The case slowly lost momentum. Other missing person cases came in, and resources had to be redirected. By the end of 2008, Jessica Ramirez's disappearance had gone cold. For her family, the pain was almost unbearable. Every day without answers felt like torture. Her parents kept her bedroom exactly the way it was. They still set a place for her at the dinner table on holidays. Her younger brother, Carlos, grew up with the constant weight of not knowing what happened to his big sister. Every birthday, every holiday, every family gathering had an empty space where Jessica should have been. 17 years is a long time to live without answers. Jessica's family never stopped hoping. They kept her case in the news whenever they could. They worked with missing person organizations. They refused to believe that their daughter and sister had simply run away. They knew her. They knew she wouldn't have left without saying goodbye. Something had happened to her. And they were determined to find out what. Over the years, different detectives have reviewed Jessica's file. Some have followed new leads that ultimately went nowhere. Others have re-interviewed witnesses or looked at the evidence with fresh eyes. But nothing has ever led to a clear breakthrough. There has never been a credible sighting. There has never been any activity on her phone or bank accounts. There has never been a body or any physical evidence that could point investigators in one clear direction. The case has too many unanswered questions. Was Jessica taken against her will? Did she meet with foul play from someone she knew? Did she have some kind of mental health crisis and disappear on purpose? Or was there something else going on that nobody has been able to figure out? Every possible theory has holes in it. Every lead investigators followed eventually went cold. There are too many unanswered questions, and not enough evidence to point clearly in any one direction. For Jessica's family, the lack of closure is a constant weight they carry every day. Her mother has said in interviews that the hardest part isn't even the not knowing anymore. It's the not knowing combined with the feeling that the world has moved on without her daughter. People stopped asking about Jessica years ago. But for her family, every single day still starts and ends with the same questions. What happened to her? Where is she? And will we ever know the truth? Detectives who have worked on the case over the years have said that Jessica's disappearance is one of those cases that stays with you. There are no clear leads. There are no obvious suspects. There is no physical evidence that points in any particular direction. It is, in many ways, a perfect mystery, and that makes it one of the hardest kinds of cases to solve. As of 2026, Jessica Ramirez's disappearance remains unsolved. Her case is still open. Investigators continue to review it from time to time, and her family continues to hope that one day, someone will come forward with the information that finally brings her home. But for now, the answers remain out of reach. 17 years later, Jessica Ramirez is still missing, and her family is still living with too many unanswered questions. Thank you for watching this episode of Shadow Files. These kinds of cases remind us that not every story has an ending. Some mysteries remain unsolved, and some families are left to live with questions that may never be answered. If this story moved you, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. as long as you keep them respectful. We'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.